In this video, I'll be telling you the true horror origins that inspired these 6 Pokemon. It's spooky season, and for the month of October, I've decided to make various videos surrounding the horror aspects of various games and shows. Last week, we looked at the hidden horror monsters Mojang added to the vanilla Minecraft game, which you could check out in the card here at the top right corner. But this week, we will be visiting the wonderful world of Pokemon and talk about the not-so-wonderful stories that inspired the creation of a handful of these cute and lovable pocket monsters. I won't be discussing their entire origin, but I will be bringing up the main points of interest. Additionally, these won't all be ghost types. I do think there are some non-ghost Pokemon that have creepy origins that are related to real life. Please subscribe. I really want to hit 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and we are so close. Your support would mean a ton. And comment down below which Pokemon you think have the creepiest origins in this series. Or even comment down below what your Halloween plans are. But with that, let's hop right in. The first Pokemon we're going to start off with will be Sableye. Mainly because he is one of my favorite ghost types, and he's the reason I came up with this video idea. This ghost dark cave-dwelling prankster gives off ADHD goblin vibes, which I relate to on a spiritual level. However, what if I were to tell you that Sableye was not actually a ghost or a goblin? What if I were to tell you that Sableye comes from somewhere out of this world? That's right, our good old gremlin here is actually an alien. Specifically a reference to the iconic 1955 Hopkinsville Goblin. The Kelly Hopkinsville encounter is an iconic alien sighting in the United States, specifically in Kentucky, Kelly and Hopkinsville being the 2 counties closest to the incident. In mid to late August 1955, 5 adults and 7 children basically reported to the police about their harrowing events, in which the family quite literally opened fire against a horde of goblin-like creatures that were invading their home. These creatures were short with large heads, bright orange eyes, pale gray skin, and sharp teeth. Interesting points of note was that when these creatures were shot at, it seemed the ranged attacks had no effects on the creature. A metallic sound would be heard, and the creatures would retreat, albeit briefly. Now, when police did explore the family home where the alleged encounter happened, they found no trace of the aliens except for a few bullet holes in the house's walls. Beyond the actual idea that these were really aliens, many believe these ghastly creatures could have been great horned owls that were mistaken for extraterrestrial beings. Comparing Sableye to the Hopkinsville Goblin, there is clear design similarities, with both sharing glowing eyes, sharp teeth, smaller bodies with larger heads, and pointed ears. Though these aliens were never said to be ghosts, I do quite like Game Freak making Sableye a ghost dark type. It's said the weapons drawn by the family in this event had no effect on these creatures, and the ghost dark typing gives Sableye 3 key immunities to normal, fighting, and psychic. Additionally, before Gen 6, Ghost Dark as a type combination was known to have no weaknesses, and post Generation 6, the typing is only weak to Fairy. This is a lot of fun because, like the original story, nothing seems to really work against Sableye. But enough about the Hopkinsville Goblin, let's now turn our attention to the next set of Pokemon. Now for this section, I'm actually going to talk about 2 Pokemon, Banette and Mimikyu. Now the main reason I'm talking about these 2 Pokemon in the same section is mainly because both are very similar in what they represent. Both are dolls. Well, both specifically are to represent haunted, possessed, or cursed toys and dolls. Banette and Shuppet are actually said to represent a Suko no Gami. I definitely said that wrong, so feel free to flame me in the comment section. But these are essentially objects that are possessed by spirits, and can actually be kind or evil based on how well they are treated. Meanwhile, Mimikyu is rather an ugly or hideous spirit who just wants to be loved, so it possesses a discount Pikachu plush, which is just super sad and adorable. Now, when we are talking about real-world counterparts to haunted objects and dolls, it is somewhat difficult to pinpoint a specific story. However, I think the 2 most iconic stories would be the infamous Annabelle and the Island of Dolls. If you don't know who Annabelle is, Have you been living under a rock? I mean, I'm just kidding, but this is one of the few ghost stories that genuinely terrify me. I mean, this allegedly haunted Raggedy Ann doll was originally stated to be possessed by a little girl. However, it became more clear that something more malevolent was hidden inside. Annabelle currently resides in the Warren Occult Museum, the old home of the famous paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. Even after the original hauntings, there is countless stories mentioning and warning to not visit Annabelle and disrespect her. Meanwhile, Lorraine Warren has been said could not dare to look at the doll in the eyes. The Island of Dolls is a real island you can visit that is filled to the brim with dolls, basically acting as a giant shrine or museum to these porcelain toys. The myth surrounding the island focuses on one of the old owners of the island, who discovered a girl who passed away. He ultimately left to go get help, and when he returned, all that was left was the doll. Assuming the doll was the girl's, the man kept it as a memento to honor the person. However, it has been said that the doll was possessed, and the man became obsessed with it and just dolls in general, filling the island with various dolls and puppets. I personally don't find haunted dolls scary, with one aforementioned exception, but I do find it fascinating that unlike most types of ghost stories, places like the Occult Museum and Island do exist. I definitely don't recommend going to visit, but these are tangible places you can discover. But with that, let's move on to our fourth Pokemon. Moving on to the last of our ghostly friends in this video, we'll be looking at Phantump. Now, like the last two, I don't think I need to explain too much of Phantump's origins. A rotten tree stump possessed by a child, with Dex entries often stating that children who get lost in the woods often get turned into these spooky tree creatures. Now, this alone gives me a lot of concern. I mean, how many children are going missing in the Pokemon forest? And if you're shiny hunting for a shiny Phantump using the Masuda method, how many children are you banishing to the Shadow Realm? Like, what? Now, the sad and creepy truth about Phantump's origin story is that in our real world, many people often disappear within our forests and national parks across the world. Now, sometimes we do ultimately find these missing people, alive or not, and sometimes we can trace back to a cause for their disappearance and untimely demise. But at the same time, there are some instances where it's just not clear. Missing 411 has become an iconic term used to categorize unexplainable missing people incidents. Coined by former police officer turned investigator David Paulides, he has written several books on the matter, documenting and following these odd and bizarre missing cases, and trying to find validity in the conspiracy of about 1,500 cases of these people going missing in mysterious circumstances. Now, this video isn't a deep dive into David Paulides. I definitely recommend watching channels like Lore Lodge for more details, since they have a lot more time, passion, and dedication in giving more objective and honest reviews of Paulides' work and the conspiracy itself. But I will say that David Paulides' work, from my surface level review, seems to be fairly Bigfoot coded, but I do think that our real world forests are some of the most beautiful and creepiest places on our planet just because of how easy it is to be lost and forgotten. Moving away from the haunted and spooky ghost types, let's talk about zombies. Meet Paras and Parasect. These two Generation 1 bug types are insects infested with a type of cordyceps fungus. As it evolves into Parasect, the mushroom on their back takes over a majority of their body, and their eyes go vacant and blank. These are actually based on a real-world parasite that infects insects and basically zombifies them, turning the insects into husks of their former self with the intent to shrivel up in a location where the fungus can continue spreading. These same fungi are actually the inspiration for zombified parasites in the Last of Us video game series. Now, to be fair, these don't pose a threat to humans in the real world, but when you see images like this, or deer chronic wasting disease, it does become at least unsettling to think what would happen if these or some similar threat starts impacting humans. Alright, well, that's all the time we have for this. Wait, what? You want one more Pokemon? Alright, sure. Maybe I could throw in a few other ghost types, maybe a Hypno, maybe some bugs, that kind of thing.